The key to a successful Black Friday comes down to understanding when you expect revenue and demand to peak, as well as having a plan to capture that demand. We always see a pullback from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. Again, you'll see where new customer revenue occurs on that trend, and that's important to pay attention to. Last year, we saw less pullback from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. And so, where we usually see, if you can see me on the screen, where we usually see, hey, a big spike on Friday and a big drop on Saturday and Sunday, but still good Saturdays and Sundays, we saw less of a drop on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday generally spikes as well, sometimes brand specific. Now, what you'll notice is as you look at this chart, CPA starts to change pretty dramatically. And it's really important that this kind of like general overview is going to be useful for brands to kind of get an average understanding of what to expect during this time period. But again, you really want to look at this for your brand, particularly when your revenue occurs. You can also overlay efficiency on top of this. I would again suggest looking at AMER in particular in this case. Don't expect that you can influence demand more than just the macro environments, right? The Monday before is not going to be nearly as big as Black Friday and Cyber Monday for 99% of brands. Now, again, there's some brands with like a pretty big pent up organic demand and they have a massive email list. They have new product releases that happen on the Monday before. They have the ability to do that. But the average brand and most brands will not be able to do that.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
The key to a successful Black Friday comes down to understanding when you expect revenue and demand to peak, as well as having a plan to capture that demand. And so in this special Black Friday episode, this additional little YouTube video, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're definitely going to want to go over to YouTube because I'm going to be screen sharing. I'm going to take you through the plan that we use to help our clients kind of plan and execute around Black Friday. So the first thing that we're going to do is kind of walk through kind of when to expect demand to pick up. And then the second thing that we'll do is look at how you can think about executing this demand or executing on capturing this demand with your marketing strategies and tactics in order to maximize the moment. And this can be the difference between making money and losing money, and certainly kind of maximizing the contribution margin, revenue, profit that you want to capture during this moment. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into
This episode of Scalability School is brought to you by Northbeam, the marketing attribution platform that we love over here at the Scalability School podcast. We know there's a lot of attribution software, right? And solutions. And I want to talk about what makes Northbeam different and why so many huge ecom brands and ecom legends really trust their data. The Northbeam difference, there's a lot of things that go into this, but it doesn't just give last click credit. It spreads credit across the entire customer journey. So top of funnel campaigns finally get the recognition they deserve. There's a ton of attribution models and accounting modes. It gives you maximum flexibility to track across huge look back windows or conversion lags for all you operators with long consideration phases. Northbeam tracks both clicks and views, so you can finally prove TikTok, YouTube, or Snapchat campaigns are actually driving revenue. You can check out their clicks plus deterministic views model, which is one of my favorites. It separates new versus returning customer acquisition clearly, so you know which ads are driving incremental. Northbeam Apex is crazy. It's an integration with ad platforms like Meta and AppLovin that allows those ad algorithms to actually drive your ad delivery based on first-party performance data. Nobody else has this. It's immediate efficiency returns at the push of a button. That's the Northbeam difference, right? It's better data, sharper decisions, and more profitable growth. Northbeam pays for itself over and over. I hear from so many marketers who trust this thing every day. The founders over there, Austin and Dan, really, really smart guys, love working with them. And plus, tons of people use them, right? Manscaped, Dollar Shave, Hexclad, Grubs, AG1. So if you're ready to cut through the noise, stop guessing, and actually see which ads are driving your business, book a demo at northbeam.io/demo and tell them Scalability School sent you for a nice little, surprise. Join the club. Check out the Northbeam demo.
Great. So I wanted to first start by, and let me go ahead and zoom in on this thing a little bit here. I wanted to first kind of start by showing an example of revenue and how it occurs. Now, there's a couple of different lines on here. Don't worry about the differences between the two lines, but I just want to show you an example for when revenue occurs throughout Q4 for a specific brand. Now, what's really important here is this will give you some indication of what this can look like for your brand. What it's not going to do is tell you what to expect for your brand specifically. So, for example, If you are a brand that is more gifting heavy, you may see demand pick up more aggressively from Cyber Monday through the shipping cutoff. If you are a brand that maybe has a higher price point and people have been waiting all year for the sale, you might see Black Friday be substantially bigger. If you're a launch-based brand and you have a new collection releasing, or you have a lot of organic pent-up demand that's waiting, your Black Friday will probably be substantially bigger than your Cyber Monday. If you are a health and wellness brand, your posts, you'll probably have a solid Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but the Q5 moment, which is kind of December 26th through the beginning of the year, is probably going to be much more meaningful. And so what's really important is to understand how your revenue has historically occurred. And the best way to do this is go into Shopify and export two things. Go to analytics, go to the page where you can export sales by day, and export two different versions of that. One, the total revenue version, and two, the new customer revenue version, because that's going to allow you to understand both of those curves and how those differ. The new customer one's important because it's going to allow you to determine how you should be allocating your spend dollars more specifically over this time period. Now, you may look at total MER and not just AMER, but my kind of general take on this is, for most brands, looking at when your new customer revenue occurs is going to be the biggest tell of when you should be thinking about pushing budgets. Another example and a way to look at this chart is directly from Meta. It's one of my favorite charts. It's a little bit dorky, but this is for all advertisers on their platform. You can see down here, source global median advertising rates across purchase optimized ads in all verticals for 2024 through the beginning of 2025. And there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So they have three things charted here, which are CPM, conversion rate, and cost per purchase. So what you'll notice is in the blue here, CPM starts to spike, and there's generally a lot of discussion around does CPM matter? And I think during this time period, what you'll notice is that CPM, and I would say that generally this is true, CPM is largely a reflection of obviously kind of like the market conditions generally speaking for Meta, but also kind of customer intent and buyer intent. There's going to be a ton of advertisers pumping their budgets through this time period, and that's going to force CPM to go up. The good news is that because we've all been conditioned to buy things during this time period, what we're going to see is alongside that is an increase in conversion rate. So when this blue line starts to peak kind of into late November and early December, we also see that conversion rate actually goes up faster than CPM does, which is important for CPA, or cost per purchase, which ultimately starts to decline during this time period. Now, what you'll notice is as you look at this chart, CPA starts to change pretty dramatically. And it's really important that this kind of like general overview is going to be useful for brands to kind of get an average understanding of what to expect during this time period. But again, you really want to look at this for your brand, particularly when your revenue occurs. You can also overlay efficiency on top of this. I would, again, suggest looking at AMER in particular in this case. And so, as you kind of look at this graph, what you'll see is CPM, conversion rates both pick up into December. They kind of drop into the shipping cutoff. And what Meta will suggest is Q5 is a critical time to continue the momentum. What's tricky is you can only do that if you have, you can be creative about how you can answer to that moment for your brand. Like maybe there's something that you can do to take advantage of that. But it's difficult if you don't have a business that operates on Amazon or is in retail. It's going to be really hard to maximize those couple of days before Christmas because you quite literally can't get the customer product, and that's not your fault. But again, there are ways to kind of try and be creative about that. And then CPA, right? A lot of brands are going to see an increase in CPA at the beginning of the year if they're not in the health and wellness category, if they don't have a new year, new me momentum. But what I would suggest that you do is think about like, is there a way that you can pivot your messaging, your offering, the way that you communicate on your landing page and your ads and your website to fit the moment? That might not be possible for all brands, but something that you could try to take advantage of. Again, I wanted to start with the numbers because the numbers are going to tell us really important details about when to start our planning. So my biggest suggestion for you would be going into Shopify, exporting your revenue by day, exporting new customer revenue by day, and plotting them on a chart and just seeing what the graph looks like. Obviously, you could see that directly in Shopify too, but if you wanted to add ad spend and efficiency and all that on top of that, then you would be able to do so by doing that. So from there, let's pop into the calendar because the calendar is going to allow us to then maximize the peaks that we have on this calendar and try to smooth out the valleys as much as possible. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Common Thread Collective, Taylor Holiday, those folks have done a fantastic job of really bringing this idea of peaks and valleys to the forefront of the e-commerce discussion, particularly around this time of year. I think they also have some great Black Friday and Cyber Monday material. If you just go to their website and search for Peaks Theory, you'll see one for kind of general throughout the entire year. And then if you do 4 peaks of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, they have a great resource on that as well. And most brands have a couple of different peaks that happen throughout the year. And so for this brand specifically, there are a couple that are very obvious. So they started their sale at a couple weeks into November, or sorry, the second week of November. And the reason we did that last year was because the election was the first week of November, and that just threw a little bit of something into the mix. You'll see that over the course of the next couple of weeks, there's a bit of a pullback, and this is generally true across most brands. Now you can kind of offset this by having a little bit of a, if you start your sale during this time period, you can try to offset it a little bit. Maybe you can maximize your email sends, but this is where, there's generally a little bit of pullback, kind of that initial spike in, shopping and customer awareness and gift buying will happen at the end of October going into November. So if you're going to start your sale early, that would kind of be the recommendation there. But you will kind of just expect to see some pullback leading into actual Black Friday. Now, this is kind of the weekend before Black Friday. This is like this Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And again, you'll see this when we go over to the planning section. But our general recommendation would be if you've waited to start Black Friday, you didn't start it early, then you probably want to go ahead and start it on that Monday to take advantage of kind of some initial demand and get a little bit of a spike there. And then you can run it. This is Friday. We always see a pullback from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. Again, you'll see where new customer revenue occurs on that trend, and that's important to pay attention to. Last year, we saw less pullback from from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. And so where we usually see, if you can see me on the screen, where we usually see, hey, a big spike on Friday and a big drop on Saturday and Sunday, but still good Saturdays and Sundays, we saw less of a drop on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday generally spikes as well. Sometimes brand specific though. If you change the offer on Monday, that can cause some fluctuations in either direction. So just something to keep in mind is that the weekends do pull back. You want to adjust your ad spend accordingly. And so that's something to keep in mind. And then when Monday rolls around, pull back on the budgets, change things up. Even if you still have your promo live, don't expect that the efficiency is going to continue. It's going to fall off. Look at what it has historically fallen off like for you. Make sure you pull back budgets, make sure you dial things back, and then figure out how you maybe need to reposition your messaging and your offer going into the shipping cutoff stretch. So if you need to pivot to a holiday sale, you need to pivot to a shipping cutoff stretch, you can do that as well. And then try to maximize that kind of pre-shipping cutoff threshold. And then there's some other things that we can do kind of going into the rest of the year. So let's go ahead and pop over into the calendar, because I think the calendar is where we're going to start to see some actual or actionable things that we can do from a planning perspective. If we can make a copy of this and share it with you, I definitely will. But here are just some moments that you can try to do or try to take advantage of. The moments that you see on the calendar, right? Try to come up with a reason for people to buy today. And there are different moments that will happen starting in Q4 that you can try to latch onto and take advantage of them. So the point of this calendar is to force yourself to go look at how your sales have occurred last year and figure out, did I do any of these moments? Can I take advantage of any of these moments where there might be some kind of natural increase in shopping demand? And how do I maximize that for my brand? And so the first thing that we see here kind of in October, and this is confirmed, I believe, as of the time of recording this, I tried to record this once and I wanted to come back and give it another shot. And I'm glad I did, because now I think I can say that the Amazon Big Deal Days, which is kind of like their fall Prime savings, will be happening October 7th and 8th. And so a lot of brands during Prime Day, even if they're not on Amazon, will launch something with similar messaging. Obviously, there's IP law around what you can say for, you can't say Prime Day sales during Prime Day because they have that trademark. So be cautious around what you're calling this, but you can kind of latch onto the fact that Amazon will have some kind of pushed demand during that stretch. And now, if you are in Amazon, obviously you can take advantage of that as well. But this kind of kicks off or gives some kind of initial kickoff into the gifting shopping. We see some gifting heavy brands will start kind of the last week of October. They might have a little bit of an early rush, maybe post Halloween when people are kind of done with their candy and dressing their kids up if you have kids, and they are just kind of like ready to get into Christmas mode. The Christmas music goes on. Mariah Carey starts to pop off. And so that is just kind of maybe this is the kickoff to that season in a way. And so you can latch onto that. You can use this moment, whether you're on Amazon or not, and try to make the use of that. If you have something that makes sense for Halloween, you sell candy or costumes or something that can be tangentially related to Halloween. Obviously, you can take advantage of that too. There's just a little bit of a quick note here on the sale clearance items. If you want to start pushing fall items a little bit more aggressively, or start to maybe consider discounting those to move out some of those items, if you are, if you have some of those in your catalog, you can start to think about doing that around this time period as well. Obviously, then we have Halloween, which if it makes sense for you to maximize that or use that for your brand, you can figure out how to work that in. And then from an actual November perspective, you have a couple of different options. And so the highlights that I have here on when early bird should start are going to be specific to your brand. Our recommendation to our clients is generally, if you feel comfortable starting November 1st or November 3rd, which is that first Monday in November, you should do that. And so that's going to allow you, if we go back and look at the pacing example, and also this sheet, that's where we're going to start to see some of the momentum pick up. And what you'll notice is if we look at this CPM graph, CPM starts to rise here a bit, and conversion rate also starts to rise a bit here. But the beginning of November, it doesn't kind of go up as quickly as you'd like it to. And what we generally see is, again, that initial kind of pop of gifting. Hey, Halloween is done. There's some kind of gifting momentum here. That does work pretty well. And then people start to naturally just like pull back and wait because they know Black Friday is coming. And a lot of people want to make sure that they are getting the best deal. Now, the way that you communicate can obviously influence that as well. So our general recommendation is, if you listen to the main podcast version of this is kind of like an accompanying episode to that podcast. If you listen to that, if you didn't, you should go listen to it. But if you did, you'll remember that we talked about having a plan. And Zach talked about basically from now through the end of the year, they have a plan for every single day of what they're going to do from a messaging standpoint on their website. And you can take advantage of that. I will reserve comment on what that means for your quote unquote brand. And if you think it's tarnishing to your brand, I'm just telling you what we see from our perspective, which is if you're going to start early, I would generally recommend starting within the first couple of days of November, because that's going to allow you a couple of extra days to take advantage of that. If you don't feel comfortable doing that for whatever reason, you certainly don't have to. Just know that if you kind of launch it within that middle range of November, it might not be as impactful, and you might not be able to pull as much additional revenue in there, and that's okay, because maybe you can kind of save it and maximize it in the actual week of Black Friday. So then we've got where you could consider starting your early bird, which is maybe you send out an email to existing customers and you say, hey, you're going to get the best deals. We don't want you to be stressed out when you're shopping, so you can buy now, and maybe actually give them a little bit of an extra discount. That also coincides with Veterans Day and Singles Day, if you want to take advantage of any of the messaging there, if it's relevant for your brand. We don't have to deal with the election this year. That certainly helps from a CPM and attention perspective more than anything. And so that will be nice to just kind of roll right into Black Friday. So if you haven't at this point started Black Friday, you're waiting, our recommendation would be going ahead and kicking off your Black Friday promo on the Monday before Black Friday, November 24th. And the reason we'd suggest doing that is, again, it just gives you a little bit of a head start, starts to allow you to see which ads are going to work, see if you need to make more of anything in particular, and just start to really capture the moment. A lot of brands are starting earlier and earlier every single year. I think that's the common discussion that everybody has. And there's a lot of value in doing that, because it allows you to have ads live longer, allow you to see what's working, what you can kind of capitalize and make more on. And if you have to make a pivot on your offer, which at this point you probably don't want to be making pivots on your offer, but if you have to, you still have a couple of days to consider doing that. Now, don't expect that you can influence demand more than just the macro environment, right? The Monday before is not going to be nearly as big as Black Friday and Cyber Monday for 99% of brands. Now, again, there's some brands with like a pretty big pent up organic demand, and they have a massive email list. They have new product releases that happen on that Monday before. They have the ability to do that, but the average brand and most brands will not be able to do that. And so just because your Monday starts a little bit slower than your Friday, again, you can look historically and you could say, great, I've launched on the Monday before, and I've done 20% of the revenue on that Monday than I do on Friday. So you can have the same expectation for that going into this year. If you just look at the historicals, if you want to get a better average and you have more data to go back on, go look at what the average is for the last several years, and you can just look at them kind of combined. Cool. Then we have kind of going into Thanksgiving, which is pretty straightforward. Then actual Black Friday kicks off. That's where if you need to send additional emails or do something around Black Friday, you can do that. Then you've got going into Cyber Monday. Post Cyber Monday, a lot of brands will just extend their sale. Again, just because you're extending your sale doesn't mean you should expect that demand will continue, but a lot of brands will do an extended Cyber Monday into Tuesday. They'll use some gimmicky language around, oh, we didn't plan to do this, although every single one of them planned to do this. And maybe that allows you to ride into Tuesday. Alternatively, you could consider Gifting Tuesday as a moment to take advantage of. But regardless, if you have a gifting friendly item, and a lot of things can be positioned as gifting friendly items, some more than others, understandably, then this is when you maybe really start to ramp up your gifting messaging. Maybe you pivot to a holiday sale instead of a Black Friday sale, and then you can push there. That doesn't mean that you can't have gifting ads live as early as October. I mean, we have brands right now who are planning their gifting ads so that they can go live sometime in October. Now, the way that we structure campaigns is that they won't get spent until the moment is here, and so we just like to have them, ready, whether it's in a cost-controlled campaign or it's in a bigger CBO where spend just won't force. So we think it's okay to launch sooner than that. Just this is when you can really start to expect that to pick up. And so there are many gifting brands who will have bigger Decembers, particularly because Cyber Monday is in December again this year, like it was last year. It wasn't the previous years. You can expect that your December will be bigger than your November if you're gifting heavy, and that's okay, right? It's pretty condensed into December 1st through whenever that shipping cutoff period is for you. But this is the time to start to push that gifting messaging really heavily if you've waited for some reason. I would suggest starting sooner than that if you can. Cool. And then we've got, say next day, maybe you can use that to, if you have some fun little things that could be maybe be used in there. Obviously, people need to order that in time for St. Nick's Day. So, something to keep in mind with your messaging. Then at some point, kind of around the December 10th-ish to 15th-ish range, people are going to start to have a shipping cutoff period. And so leading up until that point in your ads, in your emails, and on the website, you want to clearly communicate when the shipping cutoff will be, because that's going to add some urgency into people actually stopping procrastinating. Now, my great example of this, my personal anecdote is my dad goes and shops the 2 days before Christmas every year. He's never going to be able to buy anything online or as much as he wants to online because he's just going to continuously procrastinate until the few days before Christmas. And that is just how he rolls. That said, if you can convince some people to shop online, you can do it by saying like, hey, this is the last chance to actually get this in time for Christmas. Now, what you might consider is on the website, you can try to, push priority shipping. If you want people to get it before Christmas, you can update that shipping, the shipping profile in Shopify to actually communicate that, like use this to get it before Christmas. If you have shipping estimates on there, just make sure you communicate with your 3PL, or if you're fulfilling it, make sure you know that you can do that. And then just keep an eye on the shipping cutoff for the actual providers, the UPS, the USPSs of the world, the FedExes of the world. Make sure that they're going to do it so you're not over-promising them. At this point, you can also consider, if you are on Amazon, maybe redirecting some ad traffic to Amazon. I won't speak on like the efficacy of that. Digital gift cards, you can try to push. They generally don't work that well. I'd love to see anybody that's crushed kind of this period of where our shipping cutoff is. If anybody is crushing post shipping cutoff without Amazon, I would be very curious to see this. But for our Amazon heavy brands or brands that have, call it at least 20 to 30% of their revenue, maybe upwards of 50 to 70% of their revenue on Amazon, Amazon really starts to pick up those last couple of days because obviously you can still get things on time pre-Amazon. So if you haven't, this is maybe a time to, push your email list over there to try and maximize like the shipping cutoff period. If you have discounts, you can also mention those too, but good time to just kind of maximize the Amazon push and just continue to push folks over to Amazon. And then we have a couple of weird days where, again, back to the pacing example, we're going to see the pre-Christmas just drop off pretty dramatically. It's really hard to, do anything different in that moment just because people's attention are elsewhere. And I would imagine, I'd be curious to see some retail sales charts on this, but I would imagine, those last minute shopping in retail situations are probably picking up pretty meaningfully the kind of week of Christmas. And then post December 25th, post Christmas, that's when you can kick off the new year, new me momentum. You can pivot over to your sale messaging during that time period. You can use the same promo that you used during Black Friday if it worked well. Maybe you need to switch it up and make it relevant for the new year. But at this point, you can kind of pivot over and start to kick off your new year, new me messaging. Again, just like the gifting, you can start it earlier. Just don't expect that it's going to hit massively until Christmas rolls past us. Like that is just the nature of the macro kind of trends. you can start it early to be prepared, which maybe gives you some time to pivot if you need to. Just don't expect that you're going to hit your revenue peaks, your profit peaks until those moments actually occur. And then you are off into the rest of the year, and you are on your way to Q5 and into the beginning of January, which depending on the brand that you have can be a bit volatile, especially if you're not pulling back. So just make sure you pull back on your ad spend. So a lot of different like tactical things to keep in mind, but wanted to keep this video specifically focused on the calendar, the pacing, and just kind of things to keep in mind. If you would want more tactical insights, just leave a comment on this video and say, we would like more tactical insights about X, Y, and Z. How are you handling this? Just let us know. Let us know in the comments, and I'm happy to make follow-up videos either by myself or grab the guys and throw them on here as well, and just speak to the different Black Friday moments, how to maximize it and get as tactical as you would like. So if you'd like a copy of this calendar, we'll figure out how to share with you. Maybe check the description and we'll see if it's there. If not, you can always DM me on Twitter, and my Twitter may be in the description here as well. So cool. All right. Thanks, y'all. If you have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, happy Black Friday and good luck to you.
The only way that we grow this podcast is by you sharing it with your friends. Honestly, like reviews kind of don't really mean anything too much anymore. They're really meaningful, but they don't do a lot for the growth of the podcast. And so sharing YouTube links, sharing Spotify links, sharing Apple, whatever we call it under the podcast app now, anything you can share, the better we're going to be. Guys, anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, please go check us out on YouTube. Rack up those views for us. We'd love to see it. And then subscribe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
And I relentlessly refresh the YouTube comments because it dictates my mental health for the day. So please say something nice about all of us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening, honestly.